Hey everyone, welcome to our masterclass this week, and today I want to talk about 5 different ways that we can minimize that deep belly fat that we can often accumulate during our menopausal years. So hopefully you'll enjoy today. There's quite a few studies that I'm going to talk about today, and just give you some tips, tricks and strategies as to implementing some different ideas as we're going through our health and fitness and wellness these days with Live Longer Online Health Club. So what I want us to think about is fat as an older woman can actually be our friend. And we know that fat is what we call an essential macronutrient. So our body literally cannot survive without it. And good fats can help us with our brain health. It can help us with our hormones, and it literally keeps our body going. Where we're going to talk about today is what we call visceral fat. And visceral fat is that deep fat that sits in and around our internal organs. And that type of fat is not good fat. In fact, this type of fat that sits in and around our internal organs can actually lead to things like insulin resistance, which is the fast road to diabetes. And it can lead to excess belly fat. It can also lead to heart disease. And we just know that it's the most dangerous fat that we can hold within our body. The tricky thing about visceral fat is you can't actually see it. So when you can see fat on our bodies, that's just underneath our skin. But this visceral fat is like weaving in and out of our internal organs. And so scientists say, if you're asking, well, what causes visceral fat? They say when our hormones change, our sex hormones, we know that estrogen drops down. We also know that cortisol, which is that hormone that comes out when we're a little bit more stressed, rises in our body. And we can also find that our sleep is more disruptive as we age. And even our gut microbiome, often we can find we start having gut issues as older women. So scientists believe that all these different reasons can be part of the reason that we start to get this internal visceral fat accumulate. And the thing is, what do we do about it? Because there's no actual magic bullet that can get rid of it. So we can't take a tablet or just do one thing and it magically disappears. So today I want to talk about some different areas. I want to talk about some studies and hopefully have you implementing these different ideas as I go through them. So girls, just remember, rather than sitting here listening to me or watching me on screen, why not get moving while you're listening? Get walking, get busy, get moving, and just get those extra steps in as you do your learning today, yeah? So the first thing that science shows is one of the best ways that we can reduce or minimize visceral fat is making muscle. It always comes back to muscle, doesn't it? It blows my mind, all the research I do, how everything leads back to muscle. So I've actually just put a little bit of information here on the computer so I didn't miss out on anything. But basically it was showing in one study of women between the ages of, between the ages of 61 to 77, researchers had the participants strength train twice a week for 25 weeks, so about 6 months. At the end of the trial, the women and men lost equal amounts, which was just under 4 pounds of total fat, but only the women, so there's the kicker, only the women lost a significant amount of abdominal fat. And the abdominal fat they lost was both visceral fat and subcutaneous fat, which is that fat that you can see just underneath your skin. Plus, strength training helped to improve insulin sensitivity. So you'll often hear me chat on about our blood sugar levels, and I often say that if your blood sugars are high or unstable, that it really affects you being able to lose weight, because whilst blood sugar is high in the bloodstream, your body won't burn fat as energy, it will burn sugar, glucose, as energy. So fat will store and predominantly store in and around the belly area. So the more stable we have those blood sugars, the better. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So that leads me on to tip 2. So tip 1, make muscle. And so that's doing our calendar, making sure that you do those days that are our live replay workouts, our strength days, our core days. All those different workouts will help provide you with getting back your lean muscle mass and your strength. Yeah. Okay, so tip number 2 is to manage your blood sugar levels. So we know that during menopause, once again with these hormones changing, that we can become way more sensitive to carbohydrate. And when we become sensitive to carbohydrate, it makes our blood sugars rise. When our blood sugars rise, then we are out of fat burning mode, we're into fat storing mode. So our next tip is to make sure that we are managing our blood sugars and keeping them as stable as we possibly can. What I thought was interesting, I actually want to read it here because I didn't want to miss out on telling you, is when your liver, which is a gatekeeper for much of your body's stored glucose, which is sugar, it is surrounded by fat. So if you've got that deep visceral fat that's surrounding around your liver, it causes metabolic deregulation. So what that means is your body's not working metabolically optimally well or functioning well. Yeah. So what it means is your body is forced to pump out way more of that hormone insulin in order to get the glucose into the cells out of your bloodstream. So insulin, we know, is a fat storing hormone. And the more that we push out of insulin, the more we're going to store fat. So how do we stabilize our blood sugars? So girls, you should be able to tell me by now. We do things like having our 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar 10 to 15 minutes prior to our meals. We make sure that when we eat our meals that we eat our protein first. We follow that up with fibrous type vegetables and or our fats, and we leave our carbohydrates to last. So if you did an example of going out for dinner, you often are given the bread before dinner. Well, if you ate the bread first, you're going to spike your blood sugars. So it'd be better to wait, either have an entree, like a seafood type entree, don't have the bread, and then have your dinner. And that would be a far more beneficial way of stabilizing your blood sugars than eating the bread and having the alcoholic beverage before you eat your dinner. And then if you picked a pasta type dinner that didn't have protein in it, well then, you know, you're just going to be flying high. So tip 1 is to eat your protein first, follow that by fibrous vegetables, followed with and your good fats, so your plant-based fats like avocado, things like that, your nuts and your seeds, and then last leave your carbohydrates. So that would be your bread last, or your potato last, or your rice last. Don't eat that first, yeah? So the next tip is to walk or move for 10 minutes post a meal. And we've really got into the habit of that, and it's really lovely. Like, it's time to be with family, get away from the TV. The body feels good just from moving, and it's a great thing to get into the habit of. So 10 minutes after each of your meals, get out of the chair, move. That will help bring the blood sugars down, which ultimately will help you to be able to lose weight easier, because you're getting less fat storing hormone being pushed out into the body. Yeah. So that's our first two tips. So number one, get the muscle back. Number two, get the blood sugar stable. So we've talked about both of those. If you are a diabetic listening to this, obviously you may be taking medications like metformin to be able to stabilize your blood sugar. So obviously working in with your GP, health professional, in regard to that. The next tip is to add intensity into your workouts. You know, I always talk about we need to progress, we need to do explosive type movements. This will help us with our fast twitch muscle fiber. And we found out that it also helps us with deep visceral fat. So once again, I just want to share another study with you that I've written down. And the study was post-menopausal women with type 2 diabetes who perform short interval sessions twice a week. And so, you know, it's like when I give you the box jumps, or I give you the fast skips, or I give you the star jumps, or I give you the jumping side to side. All those things are what I call explosive movement, and it's using your fast twitch muscle fiber, which is what they're doing there in regard to short bursts of high intensity interval training. Yeah. And so they were doing this twice a week, and they found that it decreased visceral fat by 24%, while their peers, so the other group who did just moderate intensity exercise, had no significant loss. Now that's massive. So those that perform those fast twitch muscle fiber exercises twice a week were able to lose 24% from the belly area, compared to the other group that still exercised, but they didn't push out of that comfort zone. They didn't do that fast twitch muscle fiber, and they were statistically had no significant loss. So girls, stick with doing those when I say to you to try and push out of your comfort zone, you know, doing those little jumps, those explosive movements that we do, because it seems that fast twitch muscle fiber helps to keep your metabolism high. It helps to burn loads of calories, and it does help you moving through life faster because it keeps your muscles acting in a younger way. But this seems to show that it's also great for getting rid of visceral fat. And remember, visceral fat is dangerous fat. So the more we can get rid of that, better for us, yeah? Okay, so the next one that I've written down is to make sure that you're on top of your stress levels. And when you're stressed, what does your body release? It releases cortisol. I can hear you all saying that to me. And adrenaline. And we know that cortisol and adrenaline, that stress hormone, when released, releases what into the bloodstream? Sugar. Yeah. And so when we've got sugar in the bloodstream, what happens? Insulin is pushed into the bloodstream to try and get that sugar out of the bloodstream. And what is insulin? It's a fat storing hormone. And so often when we have these cortisol and adrenaline spikes, we're not running from the tiger as such in fight and flight. We're often sitting at a chair, having a hard phone call, or reading an email, or the kids have rang and given us, you know, lend me more money, mum. And we go into this sort of mood. And when we do that, it's really punishing our body, because it's creating so much inflammation in our body. And so when we have this inflammation from cortisol and the excess blood sugar, and then you throw in sleep disruption, which at our age can often happen with our hot flushes, all that brings us into visceral fat. So managing our stress levels. So girls, you know, I talk about stress levels, the happy list. So thinking about, you know, your 5-minute happy list, your 2-minute happy list, your indoor happy list, your outdoor happy list, your nighttime happy list, your daytime happy list. Like I have a happy list for everything. Like if it's teeming rain outside, I've got to look at my inside happy list, which might be deep breaths, or it might be a beautiful meditation, or it might be listening to binaural beats, or it might be going to read a book on my bed for 10 minutes. You know, I have my outdoor list. That's taking Pluto for a walk, going for a walk along the beach, you know, making a phone call to my kids, and all those things that I love to do, and might even be having a game of handball or basketball or tennis with my kids if they're around. So have a happy list, girls, and all that stuff that makes you laugh and have a giggle and reduce the stress is also helping to reduce the visceral fat in your tummy. And it's incredible when you think about that, isn't it? Like, have fun, lose belly fat. Okay. Just do it. I know it's hard. The next one I thought was interesting, girls, and that is to seek help for your menopausal symptoms. And if you listen to last week's masterclass, I actually spoke about HRT, and I want to talk about another study. So a study was published in a magazine called Menopause, and it reported that cortisol is increased in symptomatic menopausal women. And so symptomatic menopausal women are women that are having symptoms. You know, it could be sleepless nights, it could be mood swings, it could be all those different things that we get during menopause, hot flushes, hot sweats, all those different things. And it was saying that the worse the symptoms, the higher the cortisol was in our body. And they found that when we treated the symptoms through hormone therapy, so hormone replacement therapy, and phytoestrogens and or acupuncture. So if you're not into hormone therapy treatment, you might be into acupuncture, or even eating types of foods that are high in what we call phytoestrogens, which are foods like flax seeds and chia seeds and walnuts and all those good things, nectarines and blueberries and all that sort of stuff. Well, they found that it was associated with a significant reduction in cortisol. So having a think about that as well. A study around mean visceral fat in and around the internal organs was 0.42 kilos for women that were currently using therapy, compared to 0.48 kilos for women that were not using therapy. So it was showing that using hormone replacement therapy was beneficial to being able to reduce that fat in and around your internal organs. So they are the 5 different ways that you can look at reducing belly fat. So let's just quickly recap them again. So number 1 is to make sure that you are increasing your lean muscle mass. So get onto our calendar, make sure that you're doing that on a regular basis. Tip 2 is to manage your blood sugar levels, your apple cider vinegar, making sure that you're walking 10 minutes after your meals, and also making sure that you eat your protein before you eat your carbohydrate on your plate. Add intensity into your workouts. So with intensity, it's that high explosive work that we've been doing, and just knowing, girls, that having done this for 3 decades, 30 plus years, I seriously know how to put together these workouts to benefit you. And so sometimes you might think, oh, you know, I prefer to do Pilates, or I prefer to do the stretching. Our body loves to do what it does well, but honestly, if you do follow my calendar, I've designed it for balance. I've designed it for blood sugar, bone density, fat loss, strength, all these different areas that affect us as aging women, even into our pelvic floor and posture. So be aware of that. Tame your stress, girls. So think about your happy list and be sure that you're giving yourself enough time on a daily basis to look after that, and just being aware that you bring your body into rest and repair on a regular basis. I've even got into the habit of laying down for 15 minutes before I get dinner now and reading a book, and it's just lovely. It's like around sunset time, the bedroom, I leave the window open, I can see the sun setting over the water, and it's just so relaxing before I go into that evening, get dinner and that next phase. So just giving yourself those moments, because we need them, our body needs them for our health, and give yourself that permission. And last but not least, seeking help for those symptoms, and whether you're choosing hormone replacement therapy, or whether it's acupuncture, or whether it's even eating those foods with phytoestrogens, like I said, the flax seeds and all that type of good stuff, and supporting your body in that way. Because if you incorporate those tips on a regular basis, you could start to magically see that your waist starts to reduce, your tummy starts to reduce, you start feeling better about yourself, and happy days. All right, girls, well, I hope you've enjoyed our quick class today. And remember, the more we know, the better decisions we make. So continue on our education and support each other through our Facebook page. And let's keep going on. All right, have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.